doesn't have a,
I think yes.
It's hanging in there.
Brian and Modesto are here, so they're outside. Oh. Yeah. Let them know. Can someone tell them we're starting? Because I can't really walk. Please, Martha, thank you.
Let me get John to get the camera going as well.
No one here is city council are asking for anybody's resignation in the crowd tonight. Just
I think the election results are still being finalized, so we're good.
Yeah.
Dick Russell, honorary city councilor. He's here.
Just a reminder again, we don't have a quorum, that's why we haven't started the meeting. I've heard that we have 2 councilors in the hall, but they are not present, so as soon as they walk in, I'll be able to gavel them.
Myra's here.
You could start. Thank you. Where's Myra? Mhm. Thank you, Richie.
I guess so. Good evening and welcome to the Lawrence City Council meeting. Today we're having a special meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 7th, 2016. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Council Reyes,
Present.
Council DePena,
Present.
Council Rodriguez, Council Abdu, Council Ortiz, Council Maldonado. Here. Council Alvarez Rodriguez,
Present.
Council Vice President LaPlante,
Present.
and Council President Vasquez.
Present. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just as a reminder, this is a special city council meeting. As a result, we have no public participation at this point. We are here to discuss 2 particular documents, which are document 39516 and 39616. Both of them are collective bargaining agreements with SEIU Local 3 and SEIU Local 8AA. And those are the only 2 items that we are able to discuss. We have 45 days from the day of submission to act on this matter. According to our ordinance and city charter, we can only approve, deny, or reduce on the amount of either one of the contracts. The 45th day, it's on Sunday, which means that if no decision is made, it will automatically be approved. In order for both documents to be approved, we need to have 6 affirmative votes. Otherwise, it fails. Mr. Vice President and Chair from the Budget and Finance Committee, document 39516.
Thank you, Council President. So the Budget and Finance Committee's Budget and Finance Committee sent up with a favorable recommendation number 39516, which is the SEIU Local 3 Laborers Union Collective Bargaining Agreement. This is for FY 2017 funding approval, and make that in the form of a motion.
Motion has been made, and is there a second? There's no second. It lacks the,
Okay.
no second?
So no seconds, so this automatically that kicks in then, Council President, if we don't act on it?
If we don't act on it, that's correct.
Very good.
Well,
Moving,
I move that we not approve the,
Are you getting this confused? This is not the one that they're here for, this is a different one.
so,
This
yeah.
is not the first one, they're on the second one. This is a different
They're
one.
on the second
Yeah,
one?
this is not this one. This is the one without a recommendation, is the one that they're here. So this first one is not controversial, I don't think.
okay.
yes,
So-
before we have, Mr. Vice President, why don't you enlighten us with document 39516 first, since that's the one?
Yeah, it's also a good idea to let the people know what
Right.
we're voting on.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Reinello, I know that there's a contention on two of these contract issues. This first one here is a non-contentious one. The second one is the one I think that there's been some contention. But Mr. Reinello, briefly, could you just explain again, briefly, please, what this contract's for?
Item 39516 is to fund the collective bargaining agreement with the laborers unit of DPW, that's Local 3, and there's a slight appropriation increase that's required. They've been waiting since this is expected to get, we put it on the agenda for the November 1st meeting. We met with Budget and Finance on November 10th, and because of a 48-hour notice requirement or a holiday, it didn't get on the November 15th agenda. They were hoping to get it on the December 6th agenda, which was last night, but again, there was a snafu. So it's finally in a special meeting, and the laborers unit would really like to get they're asking when are they going to get the retros and their payments, and we've been holding them off because the council hasn't approved the agreement. So there's no controversy on this one. I don't believe there's a controversy on the next one either, but that's a difference of opinion. But on this one here, it should be clear sailing.
Councilor Alvarez, well, we cannot engage in a discussion unless we have
I'll make the motion again that we approve this document.
Second.
second discussion.
For
Alvarez Rodriguez.
discussion, yeah. Through you, Council President, I just want to ask a question to Attorney McCarthy, if you would come forward, please.
This is not his union. We're discussing the laborers contract. This is not his union.
Okay, so who's here representing that specific union?
I think it's just me. Again, if I could just quickly explain the council's role, it's to approve the appropriation. It's not get involved in contentious relations, but
It's
in this
not-
one here,
it's-
this is just the agreement you have in front of you. We're asking the
Well, I
council
think
to
you know,
fund it.
Mr. Ianello, that this is all political, and I like to understand what's going on and what I'm voting on.
Yep.
So if it's not appropriate, then it would be my position not to fund it.
No, I'll explain it to you. if
Given
you
that
like.
I wanted to know if this was properly ratified by the
Yes.
union,
Yes.
at what date?
I don't have the ratification date, but it was on or about October 10th, the union signed it, so I know the ratification was probably a few dates before that,
Right,
a few days before that, I would imagine.
okay. Now, I understand the date, like June 30th and July 1st, but I was wondering, why is September?
It's not the right contract.
That one doesn't have September.
That's a different contract.
Okay,
Counselor.
I read,
Yeah, attached to
I
your
read the
document.
following one,
Yep,
excuse me,
okay, Yep.
for that. But as long as it's been properly ratified by the union, then I have no problems voting in the affirmative.
Yep, great.
All set, Councilor Alvarez Rodriguez?
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Maldonado.
The people representing the SEIU Local 88 are here because obviously they are not satisfied, or they don't feel
Councilor-
that.
Councilor
and
Maldonado.
I will get to the point. I will get to the point. They are not satisfied because they feel that the contract was not written in the way that they had agreed upon. How do we know that Local 3 that the same thing did not happen?
First of all, whatever they're claiming did not happen, and the evidence that the council has is the signature on the documents. The city signs and the union signs that they've held the ratification vote, and that's the evidence that everybody agreed to this document. This is Local 3 I'm talking about, not Local 88. I know there's an issue with Local 888 that they feel there's an issue, but again, I'll hold my remarks on that until we get to that item. But Local 3, clearly, Local 3 is happy with this agreement. I mean, neither of us are really happy. Everybody would like more money that I could offer, but I can't offer more money. We're trying to make it affordable. In part of your packet, there's a little highlight of some of the things that, the union relinquished, if you will, or agreed to some things. In the art of compromise, we each give and take certain things. So with Local 3, the DPW Laborers Unit, there, and you have the agreement in front of you, councilors, and it was signed by the union, Ike Gabriel, who's the representative from the union. He signed on behalf of his members, and the mayor signed it. The city, I have the Charles Body, the city attorney, approved it. I don't think that's in your packet, but I have that signed agreement. And the last one to sign after the council approves it would be the overseer's last act, and then the document.
So tonight you are giving your assurance that there's no misrepresentation in this contract?
There's no misrepresentation in this contract or the next one that we're about to get into.
Okay.
No misrepresentation whatsoever.
Who are the employees that we are talking about on?
Here, we're talking about, I'm going to say around 45 employees, basically laborers, DPW laborers, and also laborers within the water department. They're laborers, HMEOs, super HMEOs, all the people who drive the trucks. They have different titles, but it's all those. There's about 43 or 45, I believe, that are in this unit. So this agreement will cover them. And there is a one-time payment upon the, a one-time payment for past years that they didn't get a pay increase, and then there's some scheduled pay increases that's before you.
Okay, thank you.
Council Vice President?
So very simply, on this and any other union contract proposal that comes before us, Council President, as a reminder, Council President, we're not ratifying the contract. All our rule is that the contract is between the city, or in this case, the mayor, and the employees and the union. And they work together to come to an agreement. They come to an agreement, they sign a contract, and sometimes there needs to be money that has to be spent because there's not enough and they need to have that funding. What we're voting on is to say, do we have the money? Can we make the money be there to fund this contract? So even if we wanted to, and this is not the case in this one, but I may not be here for the next debate, so if there is a stipulation in here, we cannot modify this contract. This is not our role. All we do is we have the money. So in this particular case, no controversy. We have the money, right?
I would like to just make one point on this contract as relevant to the next one as well. A state mediator was involved in getting this contract settled as well, the same state mediator that was involved in the next one that we're about to talk about.
So anyway, the last thing we want to do, Mr. President, is to get involved in any kind of contract negotiation. We're not equipped to be dealing with this issues. This is not part of our mandate at all. We're just having the power of the purse. We make sure the money's there. And if we can all agree that the money's there, and Mr. Ryan Ellis, his Budget and Finance Office says the money's there, then that's the discussion we should be having. We've got the money, so I would ask that we move the question.
Just one more question.
One final question.
What is going to be the cost of this contract?
The additional amount that we need for this fiscal year to cover this contract is $65,065.
65.
I have $65,065.
Right here.
Mouthful.
This, and that.
Okay, and there's a breakdown on this page here
Yeah, on the
as to
cover
where the money's
page,
coming
from the general fund, the water sewer, and there's a little bit from the airport that we need to appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next document is document 39616.
Council President, yeah, the Budget and Finance Committee met and sent to this council without a recommendation for this docket item, which deals with SEIU Local 88, the Supervisor and Administrations Unit, collective bargaining agreement, and the funding approval. I'll make this as a committee report only. That's my motion.
Second.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second to accept as a committee report. Any discussion? Seeing there's none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Council President,
Mr. Vice
I'd like to
President.
make a motion that we reject this document.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion?
Discussion?
Discussion, Mr. Vice President?
We should not be in this position, Council President. We should, when two parties get together, and if we're here long enough, I'm sure we'll hear from other individuals who want to speak on this matter, but I don't need to. I know there's a discrepancy. The fact that we have so many department heads here this evening tells me that something is not right. Even if the city side says that there's no discrepancy and there's no controversy, clearly something is amiss, or else we wouldn't be sitting here right now with potentially 25 people ready to speak on this behalf. So clearly. Now, there may have been a mistake with union leadership at some point. I'm not here. I don't know what's going on. But what I do know is that the people that work for us here don't like it, and that we should not be here. So I made the motion to reject it. They go back to the drawing board, figure out what the problem is. And I guess this thing's also before the National Labor Relations Board or the State Labor Relations Board, which means, of course, that this is kind of our hands anyway to a certain extent, right?
Well, if I may explain, it's not for the council to get involved in this. You're absolutely right. You shouldn't. You should just approve the appropriation accordingly. There is a motion, and an investigator from DLR is already scheduled to come out to investigate this very issue. They'll decide whether the city did something untoward as they're charging, or they're just incompetent. I don't know, whatever somebody wants to decide. DLR will decide that. An investigator will come out and investigate both sides and make a determination, and we'll have to abide by that. That's the proper course of action. The course for the council, and I brought an attorney from Deutsch Williams just to explain the council's role here, if that helps. I thought it would, to explain the council's role, is to really just approve the appropriation. Any issues that are involved here, DLR is already investigating. I've got a notice, I'm sure the union has, to make a dates available at the end of December. They've asked me for 4 dates so they can come and start the investigation, because, well, we filed a charge against the union because they're not supposed to be opposing this after we come to agreements. And they filed the same thing of what you're saying. They think the city did something untoward. There's a problem. But it isn't for this city council, and they shouldn't have to get involved in it. It really is for DLR. So
So I'm going to relinquish the floor in about 30 seconds to less than a minute. This shouldn't, if the fact of the matter is that the Labor Relations Board finds that there is some untowardness or whatever the decision is, it does not preclude at all for the parties to get together and to send this back up at some point. There is
That's right.
absolutely no need for the city council to get involved at
That's
even
right.
funding this at this particular point. If they go back and if it happens, you can resubmit this. That wouldn't be a problem. So that's the position that I come
well,
from.
it is quite a bit of problem, and
Well,
maybe I can have
Educate me on that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll have Nick Domalello from Deutsch Williams explain what happens if this does not pass the council tonight. The next step in the process, what would that be, and why that's perhaps not good for the members of the unit.
Mr. President.
I'll prefer to get the,
Sorry.
no, I'll prefer to hear the attorney.
It'll only take a minute, it's not
I think
a
that
lengthy discussion.
Yeah, but I do want to hear from him, and I won't ask any more
Good
questions.
evening. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. Nicholas Dominello from Deutsch Williams. My firm is outside labor counsel to the city of Lawrence. My firm helped negotiate this most recent contract with Local 888. Before you today is a memorandum of agreement that has been agreed to by both parties. So it is only before you because both parties have fully and fairly negotiated this. The union negotiating team took this document and its contents and went before its membership, and an independent vote was taken with its members. A majority of that membership agreed that they agreed to the content of that document and what was contained within it. Subsequent to that, the union negotiating team signed that document. That is the only reason it's before you here today for a vote for funding. If the union had voted it down during the ratification vote, it wouldn't be at this stage. So in sequence, again, if anything has happened untoward along the way, the union had procedural steps to stop it from coming up to this point. However, it is before you because a majority of the union did agree to the contents of the document. If it is not funded today, what will happen is the parties will have to go back to the negotiating table. In reality, that will mean that the parties will go to fact-finding. And again, they'll be in front of the Massachusetts Department of Labor Relations. They'll have to pick a fact finder. Funds will have to be spent in excess of $10,000 to fund a fact finder. Multiple fact finding sessions will have to happen. Attorneys from both sides will be involved. Ultimately, this document before you, the memorandum of agreement, something substantially similar, if not with less financial components, because one-time money may be gone down the road, that will come before you again to be funded. So ultimately, a substantially similar document will come before this council months in the future, if not years in the future.
That's the worst case. All right.
Yeah. So,
I'm done.
All set?
thank you, Council
Councilor Alvarez Rodriguez.
Thank you, Council President. I think it's naive to think that we would not be concerned when there's an issue or a problem with an agreement. And I believe and echo the words of the Vice President. It's true that something is wrong, and I'm not going to vote to fund a contract that hasn't been fully accepted. So I know both sides need to compromise, but apparently this contract does not reflect the agreement that had been reached. So I understand there was in some initial language that somehow did not turn out to be in the contract itself. So I think if there's anything that we need to do to make certain that people continue to be paid at the rate of the last contract until the new contract kicks in, then we'll do that. But I'm not going to, and I'm asking my colleagues not to, approve this contract.
No paychecks will stop. The previous agreement is what we're operating under. Everybody gets the same pay. They just won't get an increase in pay until this is settled, which could be quite a long time from now. DLR doesn't
People
operate that
are
quickly.
unhappy, and they're not going to be motivated to do their jobs. There's going to be, really, people are going to be uncomfortable.
Again, I can
I
only,
think
yeah.
organization is people, particularly a government.
Absolutely.
It's about people.
Yep. Yep.
So if we fail to meet the needs of our workers, at least in a compromised form, then what good is it?
That's the document in front of you, Counselor. That
Right.
was
Well,
the,
the contract
that
in
was
front of
the
me-
give and take that we did
Right.
come.
Well, the
Again,
contract
I'm
in
not
front of
happy
me,
with it, but-
as I see it, is no good
Okay, well,
until there is a serious agreement between both parties.
and again, that's for somebody else to investigate. That's all my point is.
That's
all.
great.
Yeah.
So when
So
they
it'll be
investigate
going
it
forward.
and they come back
That's right.
with their report, I'll be happy to vote for it.
And, well, if you vote for it tonight, then that's what will happen. They'll investigate the issues. If it doesn't pass, then the next step would probably be fact-finding, which is not a good situation for the employees. That's
what they want.
That's
what they want,
I don't
and
think that's really
That's what they're
they
going to get
want.
right now.
But, I think what they want is
Okay.
the issue to be adjudicated.
Mr. Anicello, I have a great deal of respect for you and the work you've done. But this time, I'm sorry, I can't take your recommendation. I'm going a different way.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Councilor
Council
Maldonado?
President.
Yes, a contract is an agreement between two parties that is signed when both parties are fully satisfied in what they have agreed upon. And it is obvious to me tonight that both parties are not satisfied with this agreement. There are certain disagreements in here, and even though we obviously are not going to get involved in the negotiations and the reasons as to why and how it happened, my feeling is the same. I am not going to vote in favor of funding something that looks so far apart from each other. So definitely, I am not going to vote in favor.
Thank you. Councilor Ortiz?
If we can have Mr. McCarthy come up, please. I have some questions. So we've heard quite a bit this evening from Mr. Ianello. I don't know if you spoke. I apologize to everyone here for my tardiness. A lot of schedule conflicts, trying to get everything together. But if you can just, I see that there's a lot of unhappy people here. Can you just share a little bit of why you're here tonight?
The reason we're all here tonight, and what you have before you and I submitted, is the fact that there's a disagreement upon the contents of this contract. And I found out about the contents secondhand through discussions as these provisions were about to be placed into. And we, as a group, met, and we agreed that it was not what was voted upon, it was not what was negotiated, it was not what was on the table, to our understanding. And it was very clear that some of these things were drastic changes, drastic financial impacts on the members of our union. So at that time, I had reached out to the city through the finance director to discuss this. We had a discussion upon it. And at this point, the matter was then referred to you. I brought it when I went to Budget and Finance, and I felt that the only option at that time was to file this matter for the Labor Relations Board and to ask that the funding be stopped. I think it would be, hasty for us to fund a contract which 100% of the union disagrees with and does not believe it was voted on. It's not just a merely fact that it's a signed contract. It's the fact that the ratification vote by the membership was not the final resulting document. And that's our main contention. I'm not here to debate the contract, and Mr. Councilor LaPlante pointed out very clearly that's not your role, and I really don't want to rehash it in public. I just want to make 2 points. One is the union is 100% insistent that the conditions that are in the contract are not what they voted on, and two, this matter is before the Labor Relations Board, and it would be presumptive of us to move forward on a contract which is going to be disputed. So that's why we're asking that it not be funded.
Thank you for that elaboration. And so what I've heard both from yourself now and Mr. Ianello has pointed out the steps that if we do not fund this, it may go to fact-finding. Is that something, is that correct? Is that something that you're understanding?
We understand that, but this can be addressed at a later date, the funding, whether it's there or not, is an issue that has to be addressed at the moment. But at the current time, I think it would be, as I said, presumptive to fund a contract that is under dispute and that's going to a administrative board to be decided upon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for myself, just listening to, just to clarify what I have in front of me and the conversation and understanding both, it's more than, my colleagues have said, a contract is something that's in front of you that you both agreed upon. Mr. Ianello says it's signed, that's what the agreement is. Our job is to either fund it or not to fund it, and I think the discrepancy inside is the fact that, and where we're standing, it seems to be as a city council, as my colleagues have said so far, I haven't heard from everybody, is that we stand with our employees. And we stand with, all of us change out every 2 years, but these directors, these supervisors are who run this city, and it's downright disrespectful for us to fund something that obviously there's some discourse about. I can't agree or disagree, it's not my function. But tonight, I stand with our employees who make our city run the way that it should.
Councilors, are there any further discussion? Seeing there's none, I'd like to call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Roll call.
Council Reyes.
So what are we voting?
The vote,
I
the motion is
object.
to
To
reject
reject? To reject, yes.
the appropriation. Council DePena.
Yes.
Council Rodriguez. Council Abdu, noted. Council Ortiz.
Yes.
Council Maldonado.
Yes.
Council Alvarez Rodriguez.
Yes.
Council Vice President LaPlante.
Yes.
And Council President Vasquez.
Yes. Motion carries.
7.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn has been made.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, councilors.